right, it's January 2nd, 2022. Happy New Year. I have a lot of questions that I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to do an interview because, first of all, you have a pretty interesting life, not just in regards to the fitness, right? But there's from addiction to sobriety to the fitness, building your body, starting your YouTube channel, all that stuff. And so I wanted to bring some things up, talk about the spirituality aspect of it, and start with the fact that you're coming up to, 8 years sober?
This month.
That's pretty huge,
sober.
Right?
January 26th will be 8 years that I have had a drink or a drug.
What does that mean to be sober to you?
Well, to be sober means that I don't take substances that, any kind of drugs that are illegal.
Mhm.
Anything that I take is either doctor prescribed, that me and my AA sponsor know about, any alcohol whatsoever. I couldn't say any. At one point, I'd say mind-altering drugs, but pre-workout and caffeine and whatever else. There's some powerful stuff in there.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm going to ask you about soon. But sober means more than just not using, right? It's a sober lifestyle.
Sober's a way of thinking.
Right.
Sober's a way of thinking. I mean, it's all because what I was describing is clean,
Mm-hmm.
but sober is a way. There's a lot of people who abstain from drugs and alcohol,
Right.
but they have the same mindset they did when they were getting high. The anger, fear runs their life, selfishness, dishonesty. They haven't worked through any of the things. They haven't taken a look at themselves, and they're just basically doing the same thing without drugs or alcohol.
There's a personality switch on the journey to becoming sober. Is that right?
The AA material calls it a complete psychic change.
Okay. Right.
Complete psychic change takes place.
And then so if somebody asks you, right, you're recovering versus recovered, you've heard that before. And that's a big thing that you've talked about. What does that mean? First of all, what's the myth there, and what's the correct term according to if you're going to go by AA model?
I will spend my whole life, my whole AA life, before I got sober for good, I was going through AA for a long time, and I was always told you never recover. Mm. You're always a recovering addict alcoholic. Hi, I'm Ari. I'm a recovering alcoholic. That's how I introduce myself. Or I'm an alcoholic or recovering alcoholic. Recovered's the proper term. That's what the people who wrote the literature, the first 100 people who recovered from the disease of alcoholism, got together and they wrote the literature on exactly how they did it. And they used the word recovered so many times, and they explain why. It's recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Mm-hmm. That means that God or my higher power, whatever you want to refer to it as, has removed that obsession to drink or get high. So I'm no longer, it's not this constant war, this battle that I was told in the 20 rehabs I've been to, I was always going to be struggling to stay sober. That's not the truth. That was, hearing the word recovered is a message of hope. It's hope. It's the first time I heard recovered, I was like, wow, I can actually get well. I don't have to be suffering the rest of my life trying to stay sober. It's a message of hope. So I always use the word recover.
And I think the thing that people say and argue that you're always recovering is because you're always capable of getting back to that place.
There's a big difference between recovered and cured.
Right.
Absolutely. I have every ability to go back and drink and get high and be probably worse off than I was, I'm sure, which would be pretty bad. But, like with the few spiritual principles, the outline that I was given, you can stay sober, you can stay recovered. Recovered is an event. It happens. It's like there was a point where I realized, I was like, oh my God, I don't obsess or think about drinking or getting high anymore. It was an event.
Do you ever have cravings or think about it in the sense of, you know, I feel like I could get back there?
Since I started working the 12 steps almost 8 years ago, and I said the third step prayer, which is I'm going to do some videos in the future about the 12 steps and kind of dissect them for my channel. 2 weeks after I got sober, I haven't had one thought or feeling to drink or get high. Besides dreams that I've had, I still struggle with insanely intense dreams.
And that says something, right? I mean, you believe that dreams do mean something as far as whether they're suppressed in your unconscious and coming out. So there's some fear involved there.
I think it's telling me that disease is always there.
It's reminding you.
Always right there. And one thing that in these 8 years, I've dealt with a lot of stuff, meaning I've had a lot of fear, ton of anger, selfishness. I've been dishonest. I've gone through the whole thing in sobriety, just like the book told me I would. But he's never brought back that obsession to drink or get high.
What got you into using? How did that all begin, do you think? Because I know you had a personality as a little kid that might have indicated that this could have happened to you, right?
I'd say so. Way before the drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Yeah, I was. Well, what you're asking me is to kind of take a guess.
Absolutely, it's absolutely guessing,
You're
but it's guessing because I do believe that there are patterns that people can see, and maybe they can see it in their children, the way that they act, so that they can jump on it before something, more happens. And there is a personality of a child. You know when a kid is being more than just a kid, they're being more defiant, more out of control, more testing, and that can lead to,
Right. To this day, it's hard for me to say whether alcoholism and addiction is something that was passed down to me in my genetics, and I know it can be from what I was told.
Yeah.
Hey, excuse me. Or if it was something I developed, but I do know this. When I was 6 years old, I have very few memories from when I was real little.
Yeah.
I remember being terrified in school. I remember that it felt to me like every single person in school knew what was going on, had it together, and I was like terrified growing up. Like everything was terrifying.
Yeah, I think that's a universal feeling that people get, especially, high school years, especially because everybody's trying to figure out their identity and who they are, and they look around the room and they think, oh, that person's got that person's got that.
I think those are normal feelings, but I think for an addict or alcoholic, everything's like times 10.
Right.
Meaning, like, if I get in a fight with my girlfriend and she, the next day, she's not thinking about it anymore, I'm still in my head about it, resentful, angry. That's an addict alcoholic mindset. So when I think that it's normal for a kid to be in fear, I have to imagine for me it was like way crazy. Every kid was out at recess playing. I was being held back because I had behavior problems. They told me I was ADD, this and that. They started with the medicine, the Ritalin, the therapist. Your parents are divorced. Maybe that's the problem. And I was an untreated addict.
Right.
I mean, looking back, I didn't have depression, or I was an untreated addict this whole time.
So it started with smoking weed?
Age 14, I went to a Halloween party in the neighborhood near here, and I smoked weed for the first time.
Did that first time have some kind of whoa effect on you?
Huge whoa effect, because I didn't even get high. But I pretended I got high.
Sure.
I pretended I got high for like the first 5 times I smoked weed because I felt like I fit in. It made me feel like I finally found where I belonged. And like it was an illusion that fear went away. I was like, this is who I belong with, the potheads, the kids selling weed, the kids, and it felt like that kind of like I had an identity.
How did it graduate from weed to more? What was the next thing up? You said you were 14 when you started smoking.
Yeah, when
weed.
I was 15. See, I was a big internet guy. I was always on the computers causing trouble. There was a website called Arrowhead.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is that still around?
I believe it's still around.
Yeah.
And I used to go in the medicine cabinet in my dad's room,
Mm-hmm.
and get the medication and go on Arrowhead and see is this mind altering? Does this, and people posted blogs sharing their experiences. So I found myself like obsessed
Yeah.
with mind altering substances. And they were mostly opiates because we don't come from parents who are addicts, alcoholics.
No.
So he would have pill bottles, and so I would be obsessed with seeing this person's experience with this dose, and I was sneaking the pills.
Was it just for your use, or would you tell people, was a lot of it about how you made yourself feel like you relate with other people?
I probably bragged about it a lot. I can recall. It's hard for me to fully remember. I probably told other people I tried this, took this. Mostly it was weed then, but on my own, I like getting high. I always like getting high.
Yeah, I think that's a big indicator of knowing when you have an issue that's coming, that addict type of mindset, somebody who does it by themselves for themselves versus somebody who's doing it in order to brag, in order to let other people know, like, hey, this is what I'm getting into. And that's the sense of fitting in.
There was a big mix of both with me, because I definitely like being the man, being Mr. Cool Guy. Selling weed was all about that, being the go-to guy, this and that. But I took a lot of risks. I mean, when I put together that these pills, these opiates, gave me this warmth down my body, I was like, and then I started getting obsessed with hallucinogenics, mushroom. I sought this stuff out. I was looking for this stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
When's the first time that you got arrested?
I graduated from boarding school, came home, stayed sober for like 3 months.
Right.
So I was sober like 20 months then, because I was in school a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then mom got diagnosed with brain cancer, and I remember a week after that, or like right then, I went and used it as I'm not going to say it was because of that. I used it as an excuse to go get high, and I got arrested right after that. For weed, for selling weed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When she died, Mom, what did that do to your using? Maybe you didn't know looking back then, but looking back, do you think that it did anything as far as giving you more of a license to use type of thing?
When Mom died, I went to rehab right away, and I stayed sober for a bit, and I attempted to process some of those feelings. My using was pretty consistent. I was always all in. My using, when she was sick and I was going over the house and stealing the hospice meds and having heroin dropped off when I was pretending to visit while she was sick, my using was always consistent. Now, I might have said, oh, poor me, my mom's going through this subconsciously. I don't really know.
Right.
I just know I was out of control, man.
Yeah.
That addiction had a grips on me.
Yeah. Did you... So you started sponsoring people once you went through the steps. You had your sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody approaches you for sponsorship, they call you, hey, I'm going through this or that. Can you tell pretty immediately when somebody's serious and when somebody's not? Or does it take time to feel them out? Because I have no doubt that the majority of calls that you get are the people that reach out to you saying that they are in this place or that place and they need to get clean, that they're not fully ready to do what it takes?
I've sponsored probably a couple hundred people now. You
Yeah.
know, whether it was for a day or through all the way through the 12 steps, and we're still in it right now.
Right.
I've been wrong about a lot of them. There were a lot of guys who I was like, man, this guy's arrogant. He won't follow instructions. He's, you know, and he turned out to be still sober now, 6 years later. I mean, I've known guys who I met a year after me being sober 7 years, and I found people who I was confident in my heart that they had it, and they went back out. So I can't judge anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm wrong a lot.
Sure. What are some of the biggest misconceptions you think there are about AA?
That it's, well, the number one biggest misconception about AA, hands down, is that AA is meetings.
Right.
That's it. I mean, that's the whole. A lot of people think of AA and they think, well, I just go sit at a table for an hour a day, and that's how I stay sober.
Yeah.
I go to meetings. Meeting makers make it.
Yeah.
And the only thing meeting makers make are meetings, you know.
Yeah, and I've been to some of those meetings with you, and you can kind of tell when people are using the meetings as their attempt for recovery as opposed to using the steps, right? The big book.
100%. The AA is a 12-step program of action. It's laid out in the book that we were given, the AA Big Book. And you either are like with the book or you're not with the book. It's real simple. Like, there's no, oh, I go to meetings and I'll get to the 12 steps when I get to them. That's an untreated addict or alcoholic. And the other misconception is not everyone at AA is a real addict or alcoholic. And that might surprise people. They might say, well, I'm here, I must be an addict. No, there's a lot of heavy drinkers who didn't cross that line, and they might be able to just go to meetings and stay sober. Where a real addict or alcoholic, I need something more.
Is that line blurred or is it pretty clear?
Well, we all have to decide for ourselves. You got to look at the deepest place in your heart and decide, is that me? I could tell someone the definition of an alcoholic. I mean, right now, I could say the definition. You got to decide if that's you or not.
Right.
And I got to make a judgment call on if my sponsor's an alcoholic or not. Because I can't have someone sponsor me who doesn't think like me.
Right.
You're going to have no clue how crazy it is up here.
Sure.
You know, so there's a lot of people who get sent to AA for the courts, and they might have had a few drunk drivings, but there's nowhere in the book where it says drunk drivings mean you're an alcoholic.
Right.
That could be a heavy drinker.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. The biggest issue that I've heard come up from people in regards to AA, I'm sure you know what this one is God, right? You know, if there was something, a program or a way of getting sober that didn't involve, you know, having this religious aspect of it, you know, where's that type of thing? What do you say about that? You know, if somebody approaches you and says, you know, I can't get down with this whole God thing.
Well, I'll say a few things about it, man. Number one, I didn't come in AA with any relationship with God.
Right.
It's not like, Vinny, we're working here. It's not like I came in and I was just this God guy.
Sure.
What I came in with was willingness. I was at a point in my life where I was willing to do anything it takes. So I can't say, well, I'm willing to do anything it takes, but as soon as God's brought up, oh, I'm not willing to do that.
Do you think it takes getting so low for somebody to be able to get to that point?
I think that it's like I'm on fire, and I want to tell you how to put me out.
Right.
If I'm on fire, I'm going to be put out any way that I can be put out.
Sure.
And if you say, this is what we do, we come, we have a higher power, you can create your own idea of a higher power. It doesn't have to be the one that was shoved down your throat as a child.
Right.
But just be willing to start somewhere. You know, do you believe in following your heart and not your head? Yeah, I do. So maybe that's a good start to where God is. You know, I can try, it's noisy up here. Maybe I can learn how to follow this. And just, it's just about being willing to make a beginning. If you can just find a little bit of willingness to come up with your own conception you can build from there.
Right.
It's not like a relationship with God is like a relationship with anything else. It's something that builds and you grow.
Right.
It's not like all in from the set, you know. It's just,
At the very least, I think people can get, act as if God exists.
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start praying.
Right.
Maybe I'm not. Maybe I don't know if it's being heard. Maybe,
Right.
but I'm going to say some prayers this morning.
Sure.
I'm going to pray for other people because my whole life was about me, and more. So that's a good start.
Okay. So, is there anything, I know what you don't like about the program in the sense of how people conceive it, sometimes as being, meetings themselves. But what about the program itself? Is there anything that you don't like about it?
When you say the program, are you referring to the 12 steps? Or the
I am
other
talking about
aspect?
the 12 steps.
I think it's perfect.
Okay.
It's perfect. I mean, I can't change anything about that.
Not about changing it, but is there anything that you do have something in you that says maybe this could be different?
No, the only thing that I struggle with is working is the growth. Working it, I fall short of it a lot personally, constantly.
Well, that's the point, right?
That's the point.
Because you got to keep striving to continue.
No, it's perfect.
Okay. So, Garage Gym Homie, what were you thinking about when you started it?
What I was actually thinking about, first of all, you and I started an Instagram, the Garage Gym Bros.
Right.
And, it was like, we were kind of BSing around or whatever, halfway in, halfway out. The truth is that I used to go to treatment centers on the first Saturday of every month. And I used to do open talks for people in AA,
Right.
Over 60 addicts, alcoholics most of the time at Maple Grove. And I did that for 6.5 years. I missed like 2 Saturdays in like 6.5 years. And I used to do a ton of open talks. You've been to them, where I was speaking in front of a couple hundred people, whatever it was. And it was a perfect avenue for me to connect with people and help them.
Right.
When COVID came around, I still had God putting people in my life to sponsor, but I was missing, I felt like I really felt deep down like I was missing that avenue of like helping people and reaching out. And a lot of the channel's been sidetracked with reviewing these pre-workouts and stimulants, but I did it to make the kind of content I want to make, like talking about this stuff here. I've done a lot of videos like, on my own with certain things like that, stories from my past. Like, that's the content I really like to make. And then, of course, the supplement reviews, because I was watching TJ and all that, and I was like, wow, he does these supplement reviews. I saw a couple of them. I was like, I could do that, I could be good at that.
Is there a goal out of it?
Well, there's more goals now.
Right.
When I started it, there wasn't. I didn't realize I could make $1 doing this. That was inconceivable to me. I mean, I had no clue that there was any kind of business or money to be made in this at all. So I guess when I realized there could be, whether it's people using my discount code, or maybe I could, I've coached some people, or YouTube pays me for people watching. Then I realized, wow, I could really set some goals here.
Right. What about goals for yourself? And yourself could be the channel, but just things that you're working on now on yourself.
Well, I guess things I'm working on would be asking the things I struggle with, maybe.
Okay.
So I struggle with the things that the COVID stuff probably has definitely brought out a lot of resentment and fear in me, where I've had a lot of situations where I really need to stay close to those 12 steps, and I engage in darkness, political stuff, things that especially an addict or alcoholic really has no business engaging in.
Yeah.
Because it brings out a lot of feelings, So that's what I struggle with. I struggle with not talking bad about people. I struggle with the separation that the COVID politics have caused with me and my family.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the biggest struggle that I've dealt with in the last couple years, obviously.
Well, the big thing, right, is people think there's such a clear and concise answer, and we're getting information that is constantly changing, and that's undeniable, right? And people act as if that's not happening,
I know.
and it's happening.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that there is a problem there when a source is saying one thing and then it is flipped around. And it's so weird because people pretend, based on whatever political leaning or way that they want to look at it, they'll pretend that that isn't happening or that that hasn't happened. And that's bizarre to me.
It is bizarre. It's a weird thing because politics used to be something where you could get fired up about. But really, at the end of the day, it's like, how much does that affect you? With this thing, it affects me. It's like in my face.
Yeah.
The decisions, the pressure, the this, whatever. I don't even want to get in detail, but whatever it is, it's so glaring, like in my life, that it's so hard to just, for me, not
Right.
saying I am wrong to be engaging in a lot of it, but it's hard to just shut off and be like, this doesn't really affect me. Just go about your business.
Right.
You know,
Right.
It's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got an opinion out there, right? And it's
Absolutely.
shared, and it's brought up, and it's reinforced, and social media absolutely plays a huge role in that.
I'd say so.
Yeah. Why'd you choose YouTube?
TJ, when you and I started Instagram,
Mhm.
somebody found it the other day. They said this is where Garage Gym Homie originated.
Mm.
I left a comment on TJ's YouTube video, and I made a mention that I was like a recovered addict, alcoholic. I really appreciate these videos. Da da da. So me and TJ connected,
Right.
and he's like, he told me, he helped me a lot. I mean, he took time to conference me and maybe saw something in me. I don't know. He's like, you should do it. Make the channel. I said, should I do Instagram or YouTube? He said YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world because it's Google. You know?
Right.
He said YouTube's for discovery. He said YouTube's the route to go. So I didn't question it. I didn't do any more research. You know, this guy told me he's successful. I just went with YouTube.
Right. How big of a motivator is it, do you think, for your own progress, building-wise, building your body, to know that you're going in front of a camera and in front of people? Do you think that contributes to your progress?
Oh, you mean for my physical?
For your physical building, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Sure.
The fact that eyes are going to be on you, it's like
Well,
an
I
extra
mean,
motivator for you.
It's a motivator, but have I really changed things up since?
Well, you were
before
going in the right
channel?
direction regardless, right?
I mean, you and I have been training. I mean, I've been all in since
Sure.
we picked up the weight. You know, you picked up the weights long before me, but I mean, I was training, eating clean, and my sponsor would say to me, "What's the end goal?
Right.
What are you doing all this for? Like, you're crazy." Like, I'd be like, I don't know. Like, I'm
Right.
scared to lose the six pack.
Yeah,
know?
sure.
Terrified of it. You know, I
Yeah.
built this muscle and you know the abs, whatever, and I'm like, I'm scared to lose it now. So
Right.
it's like, I don't think I've changed anything with my training style or anything or my eating.
No.
It's all been the same. Tweaks a little here and there.
I think the fact that you're also an addict contributes majorly, right, to your
sure.
building.
I haven't fallen off since we started, right? I
Right.
mean, and that's the addict.
Yeah.
It's like people say, "What are your goals for 2022?" I've been asked that.
Yeah.
I'm like, to chill out more. to
Right.
do. So a lot of people are like, "I want to work out hard. I'm like, I want to let myself enjoy life and relax."
You're still working on balance.
For sure, 110%. I'm still working on balance. Like, we were at New Year's Eve the other night. I was like, I should just eat.
Right.
Why not just enjoy it? We're with good people or
Right.
hanging out. Just let yourself eat, man. It's not going to affect you.
No, but there are levels, right? So if somebody is trying to get super serious, then it may be necessary to hold yourself to that high standard.
I agree. I mean, I pretty much train year round like I'm competing for the most part.
Sure.
I mean, minus a couple cheat meals a week or whatever.
Well, it is not a couple. So you do 5 days, Monday through Friday. You eat super clean. You meal prep everything. You weigh it out. You measure it. You put it in MyFitnessPal and deal with all that.
Yep.
And then Saturday and Sunday night, you indulge.
Yep. And then I've added in now to as an attempt in my head to create more balance.
Sure.
To go out to breakfast Sunday morning.
Right.
And be like, I'm going to get a nice breakfast. It's not going to be the cleanest.
Yeah.
It'll be
because it used to be that you and I would use cheat days, Saturday and Sunday day, and
it was unnecessary.
That was a lot. Yeah. That was a lot. And for me especially, I have a bigger appetite than you.
I don't do that. I'll get a semi-healthy breakfast now, an omelet, some breakfast potato, whatever, and I keep it clean, man, until we, crush it at night.
Yeah. What question or questions do you think that you get the most from people watching you? I'll tell you one that comes to mind to me, but if you got...
these people who watch me, man, they're obsessed with the latest pre-workout.
Right.
Are you going to review the Russian pre? Are you going to review the Fentaplex? Are you going to review... It's like, it's funny because the stuff people watch the most is the stuff I care about the least. Like this is the content I'd be making constantly. I know the pre-workout, they're fun for me to do. We like to get, hit the weights, stimmed up, make the video, yada, yada. But my heart's in talking about the past and, this kind of stuff.
Well, you have depth and introspection, and that I think is an absolute key to growth. And people, I agree, I think they focus and almost avert their attention on the fitness, on the supplements, and avoid the other stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a decoy a lot of the time, and it'll avoid progress.
Yeah, it's like so. The other question I probably get is about whether I'm natural or not.
Right.
Of course.
Right. And I want to talk about that and you've been open about what you're on, which is testosterone replacement therapy, testosterone cypionate, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a reason that you're on that. What is that?
When I came home from LA, I went to jail. I had to turn myself in as part of cleaning up my past, and I gained a ton of weight there. I came out with a big belly.
Yeah, it was all soy products that they were feeding you.
All soy products, all that. I don't know if that's the reason or anything. I don't have a clue. But the point, I was finding that my metabolism wasn't working the same. I lost the weight finally when I came out, and I walked around like a freaking zombie for like a year, and did not know why. I mean, I was my sex drive was low.
Yeah.
Pretty much like masturbating just to prove I still could. Like no sex drive. Terrified to be with a woman because I didn't know if my sex drive would work. Right. Felt like a zombie. Like I was going through the motions. Even though my life was getting so beautiful because I was staying sober, if I could feel that something was off about me. And when my internist said, well, why don't we check your testosterone? He said it was low. My sponsor tried helping me with supplements. I was already dialed in with working out and eating healthy and all that. And we said, well, it wasn't like, oh, it's low, we're going on testosterone. I mean, I waited another probably 6 to 9 months after that, and then it wouldn't go back up. And they retested me. Like, it went up a tiny bit, but not much. Right. And then I decided to get on the supplement.
What are people trying to say when they're asking you if you're natural or if you're on something?
Some of them are genuinely interested in the regimen. Some of them I know are genuine, like, what's he taking, what's working for him. Right. And some of them obviously are trying to be like, oh, this guy's a clown. He's, he doesn't put in any work. He's just on drugs.
Well, they're trying to take away what you work for, which is ridiculous when you think of how clean and how consistent and how precise you are with your diet and your workout regimen.
But they don't see that.
Or they do see that, and they're just trying to announce basically there's a jealousy component there. the if I can call him out on not being natural, then maybe I don't need to do so much work myself.
The funny part is when people comment and they're like, "Oh, this guy's on trend. This guy's on HGH I got yesterday." I'm like, I'm not even denying I'm on something, but how are you going to try and pinpoint what it is when I'm open about what it is already?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, it's like, why say a different drug or like, what's the point of that?
Yeah, and it is. It's just testosterone cypionate, right?
That's it. I've never been on an estrogen blocker or any of those side medications.
Right.
I've been on testosterone with a adjusting of dosages through my testosterone's always a like a guess and check thing. So you're always going to have a dose, and everyone reacts different. And you go through adjustments. And I found what I think is now my sweet spot. And
Which
I've been
is
on it consistently, 150 milligrams a week. It's a low dose.
Once a week.
Every Monday night.
Okay.
And now I inject myself, which has been a couple of years now or whatever.
Sure. Is that a dangerous thing for you?
No.
Okay. Yeah, because it used to be that you would go in every 2 weeks or
every
10 days.
I did every 2 weeks, then I did every 10 days, and I found out these doctors, a lot of them don't know that testosterone is not meant to be administered every 2 weeks or every 10 days.
Because there's a low that you hit at the end of the cycle, right?
It's there's only has so much of a half life, and there's people who would debate that once a week is too little, and I could be taking half the dose twice a week, but I don't want to poke myself that much.
Sure. Well, that, and you see that it's doing at least
working.
what it needs to do for you.
I feel as good Sunday, the day before my shot, as I do the day after. I don't have that, but I've had a lot of that in playing with my dosages.
Sure. Any other supplements that you are taking, I guess, on a daily basis consistently that for the aid of testosterone?
I take zinc in the morning.
Okay, you're taking some vitamins.
I don't take any muscle builders. One time, I did a cycle, a 30-day of laxagenin, because they sent it to me to review. And I went on YouTube, and I was pretty kind about it and said that I think I noticed some strength gains. Honestly, I don't take any testosterone, accessory, all those legal muscle builders. People ask me all the time if I'm going to review them. I tell them I'm on testosterone, man. I'm not. My hormones are optimal. I'm not going to look like a clown saying, "Oh, this made the world a difference for me."
Sure.
When I'm open about what I'm on.
Yeah. So in terms of continuing to progress, better yourself, because you found a pretty sweet spot right now, right? But there's always room for progress. And a couple things that you've done, I know, is you stopped watching porn. You stopped masturbating, and you stopped cursing. How long has it been? And I guess what is the thought process behind stopping those things, right? Because people look at, let's say, masturbation or watching porn, and they're very nonchalant about it. They believe it's all good. As long as you're not doing it all day, then it's okay for you. It's a natural process. It's something that we do. What's your thought behind that?
Again, I got to keep... There's a lot of ego when you decide to make a decision for yourself, because it's real easy to make a decision and then judge other people who still do it.
Sure.
So it's like, if I want to be a vegan, and then I want to judge everyone who's still eating meat, it's silly. So I don't think that masturbation is just bad for everyone. I don't know that. For me... For me, you're asking. First, the swearing, because that's what I stopped first.
Okay.
I went to dinner with you and my birthday dinner. And when my ex threw that party for me at Yard House.
Right.
And my sponsee was there, and my friends were there. Tyrone was there. My boys were there. And I had two sponsees there, one or two sponsees, my sponsee, and I said the F word. Mm-hmm. And my sponsee said, "You swear? I've never heard you swear." And I realized that I act one way in front of this guy,
sure,
and I act another way in front of these people. I could either decide I'm just going to start swearing around all my sponsees and be consistent, or I'm gonna stop swearing altogether. And because my sponsor, he doesn't swear at all. I've heard him say a couple swear words here and there, and he'll like announce before he says it.
But there's something about not swearing that resonates with you in the sense of it's something that you look at as a strength to control that.
I like that. The way I talked about, first of all, women, and the way I spoke was disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, F word every second, women, slut, this, that, it's like, I just decided I didn't want to talk like that. I want to go the cleaner route. I want to try and refine myself as much as possible. And again, constantly fall short. I might be in a better place about certain things 2 years ago than I was today, and I fall back on certain things that I engage in now. But as far as swearing, I just made a decision. I'm not going to swear anymore. It's going to make me feel better about, the words that come out of my mouth. I want to be more conscious because I really believe the things you put out in the world are what comes back to you.
Sure.
So if everyone's a bastard and a B word, it's like what comes back to you,
Yeah.
And I started being more conscious of how I talked about people,
Right.
And then with porn, you have a question?
No.
With porn, well, I was involved in the porn industry. I dated one of the biggest porn stars for a couple of years in LA. It was my whole life was porn for a long time in LA, and pimping, hookers, strip clubs, the whole life. And every time I watched porn, I would get off thinking about fantasies about getting high back then, and just things that just felt too close to home for me. And I said, this does not feel healthy. I mean, after a while, and I slipped up a couple times, not since I stopped, but I was making an effort to stop for a little bit. And I was like, I shouldn't be like watching this. And, it just, one day I said, I'm done. I don't know why. It was the power of God. But I used to pray every day that God gave me a healthy sexual mindset. I literally prayed that for like a year before I gave up porn. And my prayers were answered. I had the willing. I deleted it all off my computer. And I said, I'm never going back.
You still have a prayer regimen, right? A daily prayer regimen?
Mm-hmm.
And what is that?
I wake up in the morning.
Right.
The first thing I do is I thank God for keeping me and my family safe overnight.
Yeah.
I get on the carpet in my room, and I do a couple of yoga poses while I talk to God. And the first prayer that I say is to please direct my thinking, especially to divorce my thoughts from self-pity, self-seeking, and dishonest motives. So I'm basically asking God to get in my noisy head before I do for the day. I do a quick meditation on what my plans are for the day. I ask Him to direct my thinking to what He wants me to be. I say the 3rd step prayer from AA, the 7th step prayer. I ask Him to show me tolerance, patience, kindliness, and love. Help me be kind and loving toward all. I ask Him to remove my self-will. What can I do for the man who is still sick and suffering? Please remove my fear. Direct my attention to what You want me to be. And then I pray for other people. That's the morning. Then I pray at lunch every day. I pray 3 times a day, and I'm supposed to pray additionally.
Supposed to according to who?
AA.
Okay.
So if I run into problems in the day, I'm supposed to go to God and address them. If I'm in fear or in doubt or don't have the answer for something, I'm supposed to be praying. So I fall short of that often and just stay in my head, like, noisy up there, and I'll just engage in that. And we like to torture ourselves a lot, And then at night, I review my day. There's a review from the 11th step, and I ask myself 6 questions every night, and I review my day, and then I go into my nighttime prayers.
And what you were just saying about how you're in your head, or can get in your head, I mean, that's so not just an addict thing, right? I mean,
Sure.
Being an addict might pronounce it louder, more
That's
severely.
what we're told. That's what I'm told. That addicts, it's noisier up there.
Yeah,
We
well,
live in our head. I don't know if that. I
Yeah.
don't even know my head.
And as a psychotherapist, I see people who are constantly in their head. Some, seem to have obsessions that they can't seem to get rid of. And so that's why I appreciate the AA model so much, because it so does not need to be only to benefit the addict, the quote unquote addict, right? Those steps can benefit anybody who's actually looking to grow. And I've used quite a few of those steps as far as, talking about your resentments, inventory, looking back at the past, because you do got to collect information about yourself in order to know what the parameters are that you can work on to move forward. And so that's super crucial. And people who are going through depression and are having, noise up here, anxiety, constant thoughts, I think they often have that because they don't have an understanding of themselves and what it is about them that gives them their personality and what it is that they can do to move forward and set goals for themselves and continue to progress. But on that same note, as far as continuing to progress and continue to look at yourself, I think there can also be, and I think both of us have seen this, too much introspection sometimes, right? Do you believe in that there can be too much strive for growth?
Well, when you say too much introspection, it comes to mind the 10th step of AA, which is, let's say I'm in fear. It says when we're in fear, we ask God to remove it at once. We talk about it with someone immediately. We make amends quickly if we've harmed someone. And then it says, then we turn our thoughts towards someone we can help. So the last part of that is to get away from yourself.
Sure.
And start thinking about other people. And I think that's the part we miss a lot, is because people talk about like whether they're happy or not. People who I know who are truly happy, they're not constantly evaluating how happy they are. They're probably thinking about how happy someone else is. That's the key, to being happy or being successful. Start thinking about what you could do for somebody else, and that's what AA does. It's about helping others.
I think that it's important to help others. I don't think it's the end-all be-all as far as finding your way. I think it's part of it, definitely. Sure. But I think when it comes to building yourself, what the pattern that I see all the time is if I'm asking a client who comes in who says that they're depressed and they life isn't going well and they don't know how to find happiness, as we talked about, say, well, what are you doing with your days? Oh, I go to work, I come home, I deal with my kids, whatever, and then I go to sleep. Okay, what time do you go to sleep? It changes every night. Okay, so there's no structure there. Right. What time do you wake up? Maybe sometimes this, sometimes that. Okay, so there's no structure there. What are you doing for yourself to continue to build yourself? Well, I have my kids, right? Okay, yeah, you have your kids. So what are your goals with them? What is it that you have in place? Structure. Structure is so important and overlooked.
Sure.
And structure keeps us focused on what we can do to build ourselves, and that in turn builds confidence, and that in turn just lets us go through life, right?
The bodybuilder's lifestyle has been a gift to me as an addict alcoholic, a gift and a curse. Not a curse, but a bodybuilder is really into themselves.
Sure.
So
yeah.
That's definitely something for an addict alcoholic to watch. That's why I've never competed. I mean, I've been scared to compete because, I could picture telling my sponsor I'm going to compete, and he's going to be like, why are you doing that? It's just more you.
Who happened to be a competitor himself, right?
Right. And he might argue, well, that was before I was a treated alcoholic. I don't know what he would say. I'm guessing.
Right.
But that's true. But the point is, the structure the bodybuilder lifestyle gives us is incredible because you're focused on getting enough rest, which causes me to go to sleep at the same time every night. I'm an early guy, you know.
Yeah.
It's the complete opposite of how I used to live when I got high, is how I live now. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Good.
So it's not just AA; it's bodybuilding too. I mean,
Right.
come together and
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that exercise can't. First of all, it's not going to hurt, and there's nothing that I don't think it can't help.
for sure.
Right? As far as whether it's the release of feel good chemicals or just the positivity and focus that you have. And so when I'm dealing with people who are depressed and I say, well, you know, can you find some energy to go work out? Well, yeah, but you know, it's very low energy. Work with what you got. Right? Work with what you got. Go through the motions that you know in your heart are the right motions, even if you're not getting the satisfaction that you feel at this moment.
I say the same thing. I say working out feels like a chore to most people. Most people, it's like a chore. They can't, it's like something they got to do. There's a point where you connect that it feels good. And if you haven't gotten there yet, you haven't done it long enough. You haven't been, there's a point you got to get over a hump where it's not a chore. And you realize this feels good, man. There's a reward center. I mean, you get high from it. I mean, I do. I mean, I look for it when I'm pumping iron and I'm did my workout in 48 minutes and a whole 32 sets of back, and I'm like, man, I'm high as a kite, man. Stim free.
And it's not just about the fact that it feels good, right? Because it's also about the fact that what are you doing with your time otherwise? You know? And it's giving you something that you know. I mean, I don't think anybody can argue that working out is bad for you. There might be methods and ways in which it could be, but the general exercise for yourself, right? That's something that we know is a good thing to do. So it might not give you that happiness every single time,
right.
But what are you going to do sitting home, you know, instead? And usually there's a lot of negativity involved, especially for people who I'm talking about in relation to, you know, who have depression and anxiety. So,
yeah, you gotta want it. Just like being sober, you gotta want it. You know, if you're depressed, which is not something I personally struggled with, like clinical depression, you know, any depression I've had has probably been drug induced or coming off drugs. But I really believe, I mean, not that I have the answer, but if you want to get well, you gotta want to get well. I really believe you gotta want it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we know people who don't necessarily want to get well, right? And
sure.
they can say that they're trying all they want or this or that, but then you ask, well, what are you doing to try? And there's not many answers there.
100%.
So, yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, that's it, man. That's all I wanted to ask you for today.
That was the interview?
I think there's going to be more to come, but yeah, I definitely.
You went soft on me, man.
Yeah.
You went
yeah.
soft.
First time softy.
I love it.
Next time, we'll see.
I hope people let us know in the comments what you think, man.
For sure.
I love it. All right, man.
Happy New Year.
All right. God bless all of you.